introduce myself to this community, but more importantly, to introduce what are the topics of interest that myself and our teams we are busy with. And that topic is enterprise agility. So I started enterprise agility as a research topic back when I was a university professor. And obviously after that, I switched to the industry and I started implementing agility, agile enterprise, agile business, agile organization in many client organizations. I do enjoy a combination of practice and also research, and I do publish papers whenever there are data sets that are worth of being shared and being published. And also I am delivering training. So training is both in academic setting in the past and in the corporate setting in the present time. So that's what I am in general doing. So around the business organization and enterprise agility. One of the topics that we thought we will share with you, I will share with you today is enterprise agility. But I have to make one honest confession before I say anything about this topic. First of all, enterprise agility is not a topic for 60 minutes discussion. It's a much bigger topic. Yes, you can make some statements, you can make some, I don't know, maybe bring some definition, but if you want to really dig into the nuts and bolts of what is an enterprise and what makes an enterprise agile and what is agility, if you really to provide a sound and theoretical and conceptually sound like understanding of enterprise and enterprise agility, definitely it is much more than 60 minutes discussion. So with that being said, I want to say that the purpose of discussion today is just to get some clarity about what is enterprise agility and how to approach an enterprise agility without too deep diving into the subject. I do not claim that we or myself, I know what is enterprise agility. However, I strongly believe that adopting a sound theory may help us to understand what is enterprise agility. Because without knowing an object or without knowing a phenomenon, in this case enterprise, it would be, at least it will be foolish to transform that object. So anything that you want to transform, you have to understand what is that. And I must say that we are very early in this journey. And what I'm presenting to you is rather very basic, preliminary, how to say, discussions and maybe thoughts that I'm going to share with you. So I just wanted to make this clear. When we talk about enterprise agility, naturally some questions are coming to our mind. That is, are enterprise, organization, and business synonyms, or they are just abstract disjoint concepts, or they are part of a whole? And if any of these are true, how we can check it, how we can know it? Like nowadays, you will see business agility, organizational agility, enterprise agility. Are they all referring to the same purpose? Is there a, and the second question that also comes to your path when you are engaged in enterprise agility is there a way that we can explain the relation between enterprise, organization, and business in a rational and a very, how to say, concise manner? And finally, what is there any overarching objective for agile transformation? What do we want to achieve with agile transformation? Is it enterprise agility or organizational agility or business agility? So these are natural questions that comes to your mind when you are talking about enterprise agility. So now, I thought that I will share with you a couple of definitions that I just put together. One of the definition is coming from the athletic world, one is coming from just a dictionary world, and one is coming more from the agile field. So one of these definitions that really, really resonates with me is is coming from the sport or athletic world. It says agility is a whole body movement. It's not part of your body. It's not like an arm or legs. It's a whole body movement, and that is basically responding to stimuli or stimulus that coming from the environment. So, which is absolutely applicable and very plausible definition, by the way, applicable also to the enterprise realm or to the enterprise domain. Again, normally I should give this definition or this understandings at the end of this talk, but let's start with this and we will revisit this definition by the end of the presentation as well. What is an enterprise? So an enterprise is, in general, enterprise is referring to any human cooperative that has some purpose, and that purpose has some mission, and that mission is fulfilled by the people or members of the cooperative or members of the enterprise. As such, the term of business is typically used to refer to the function perspective of the enterprise. And that function perspective is the perception by its customers. And finally, what is an organization? An organization of an enterprise is strictly meant the construction perspective on the enterprise. Therefore, we disregard all function perspective and only look at the construction perspective or the construction of the enterprise in order to derive the organization or an organization of the enterprise. And I must also say that organization, because it represents the construction, it is the objective perspective on the enterprise. While business, because it represents function, it presents the subjective view on the enterprise. Again, these definitions are based on this book, which was published recently, Enterprise Ontology. So now, in very pragmatic manner, in a very practical way, we developed a very simple model. Let's say call it 1, 2, 3 model. That simple model is let's document, let's understand what is the current enterprise and what is that future or target enterprise that we want to transform into. And then in between of these two ends, number 1 and number 2, in between you have the whole transformational activity. Now, how you transform it? Symbolically, if you look at the far right, this is a target. We want to reach this target. But to reach this target, there are multiple ways that we have to master, from way of thinking to way of working to way of learning to way of leading to managing. Just the multiple ways need to be mastered iteratively in order to get to this target enterprise. But to get to the target enterprise, you must understand what is that object. I'm using the word object. What is that object that you want to transform or the current enterprise? Let's say for just the sake of discussion, we call it rigid enterprise or traditional or waterfall or just current enterprise. Even if it is an agile enterprise, you can imagine that compared to some future vision, today's enterprise will be rigid compared to some more agility. And especially that agile is not a state that you achieve it and you declare that this organization is an agile and just lock it and do nothing else with it. So here you also see probably a mixture of science and art. So if the number 1 and 2 is more dominantly resonating with science, the middle part, the transformation or the journey to getting to the target, it's more dominated by art because you are dealing with people, with emotion, with cultures, with hearts and minds of the people. This middle part, that journey itself is more dominated by art, less dominated by science. The other two parts are, let's say, more dominated by science and less dominated by the art part of it. So now, how we do this, like how this arrow makes a transition from this side to the far right side, which is the target enterprise. That is, and by the way, we want to achieve here enterprise agility. And how we do this? Well, obviously, you define some goals here and some outcomes. And these outcomes we will be seeking to achieve with enterprise agility. And in order to make sure that we are making right progress, then we have to develop some metrics, some analytics to constantly check our journeys that we are on track, we are moving to the target itself. And obviously, how we do it, that's the question. So that's basically the elephant in the room, that how you do it. From roadmap to framework to new ways, mindset, culture, whatever you call it. So let me talk about this a bit later in details. So again, at the very beginning, I said that if you want to change something, you have to understand that object. Now, to understand that object, you have to have the right glasses, the right lenses. And those lenses we are seeking in theories. So theories are helping us to understand or observe objects. And I must also say that the limit of our understanding or the extent of our observation is dictated by the theories that we are adjusting. So nothing special about this slide, just wanted to say that the importance of theory has been recognized by a wide range of scientists from the past to modern, from science to philosophy to different fields. So if this one is coming from a great philosopher, this one is coming from a great scientist, this one is coming from a prominent enterprise engineering scholar, and this is coming from a multi-talent from science to art and everything. So if that is okay, that we...
Check this out.
If it is okay, we admit that without science, or we recognize it without scientific tools or lenses, it would be difficult to understand complex phenomena. Let me then introduce the first theory. This theory is called Thought theory, which stands for teleology, affordances, and ontology. So affordances, I must say that many of these slides are borrowed slides, and these are borrowed from the books that I am basically, how to say, using in the content that I am sharing with you. This is a very, how to say, meaningful illustration of what is affordance. That means that an object could have multiple affordances depending on the intention of the person. If the intention of the person is to be protected from rain, or for sun rays, or self-defense, or expressing your dissatisfaction with somebody. So that is the meaning of the affordances. So what is affordance? So in this slide, what you see is an object. This is an object. I'm not saying this is an enterprise. I just say this is an object. And this object has certain affordance. And guess what? This affordance is in the eyes of this subject and his intention. What is his intention? So the same object might have different affordances to different people. So affordance is the relationship of the subject with an intention in his or her mind in relation to the object and the properties of the object. So the properties of the object are such that they offer affordances, like in this case, it offers the affordance of set-on ability to the subject on the left side. So, and the shape used here means that the subject and the affordance that this object is presenting to the subject are conforming to each other. So in this particular situation, we have Charlie, and Charlie is looking at this object as a set onable just to get relaxed, just to get so with that being said, we also recognize that this object is, let's say could be a product, this could be a life insurance, this could be a pizza, this could be any object. This object, while could be considered as a product, in the eyes of this gentleman on the left side, it presents a service. So while manufacturers or enterprises, they produce products, customers, they see it as a service. So now, two more notions, and then we dive into some examples in case study. One notion is the notion of the construction perspective. So basically on enterprises, we could have a construction perspective that is something objective, and a system is its construction. So basically you could say that the construction of a system is something which is objective regardless who is looking at the system. And we could also say that a system is nothing but its construction. The way that it's constructed, that's how this system will behave. So let's relate this to enterprise agility. An enterprise is a system. And I will tell you what type. It's a system in the category of social systems. When we say enterprise agility, basically we mean agility of its construction. So now, what is that construction and how we get there? Okay, I will take you there in a couple of minutes after I walk you through one more concept here, the concept of function. So the function of a system is that very affordance. You remember that affordance of this object that could be seen in different ways by different subjects. So Charlie look at this and consider that this has a set onable affordance for me, and I can sit and relax. So the function perspective is basically that affordance that the system offers to a subject. Therefore, function is subjective, and function is not a property of the system. And basically, when we say function or when we say affordance, we mean business. And we mean a business that basically customer sees in that particular object or product. Therefore, when we say business agility, the immediate question is, what does it mean, business agility? Do you mean that chair or that tree stump, or was agile? What is business agility? Business agility is not the property of the system itself. The property of the system is the construction of it, not the business. So therefore, business agility raises a question that, what do we mean by business agility? Let me give you a couple of examples. A life insurance policy could present different affordances. For example, I am a young gentleman, just newly married. We purchased a house. For me, life insurance means that in case if something happens with me, then that life policy will pay off my mortgage. Now, 10 years later, that my wife and myself, we worked hard and we paid off this mortgage. That very same policy, now we have kids that are going to college, that same policy has a different function. Now the function that we assign to that policy is that will pay towards the college tuition of our children. And now 10 years later, the kids are out of college and we are living a well-fulfilled life. And I changed, or my wife changed, the function of that life insurance to that if something happens with me, it goes to a charity and something else. So basically, what you see here is that affordances of the object is in the eyes of the subject, in the intention of the subject. So if I revisit back that one slide, now here the function of this artifact. So any artifact, so by artifact I mean an enterprise, any artifact. So any artifacts that we design, we do have some design affordance in our mind. Although it might be not used in that way, but we do have some designed, we have some affordance in our mind when we design it. So the function of an artifact, again, artifact could be an enterprise, could be any system. So it has a construction, which is the object. It has a function, which is the affordance, and it has also a person or subject that is using the function of that object or construction. And I will relate them to enterprise. So bear with me. I know that it's very abstract theoretical, but now we are working towards how it can be applied towards enterprise understanding, organization, business, and enterprise agility. Now we have the same slide. So the function of the chaplain chair is to be set honorable to Charlie. So Charlie still has the same intention. He wants to sit somewhere and get some rest. But now Charlie has a different object that can use for the same purpose. Guess what? Now, because the chaplain chair offers to Charlie a much better experience than the tree stump, it has a higher value in the eyes of or in the mind of Charlie. So this way, we can also state that value of the products that organization or enterprises they produce is basically subjective. So the value is defined by the customer. The customer sees value the same way that Charlie sees more value because of the comfort that this chaplain chair presents to him or the affordance it has. So please remember here a few things. We have function, we have construction, and we have affordance. Now, experience, that basically relates to our customer experience. When we talk about customer journey, customer experience, that customer experience basically defines the value of the products or objects that we are producing. So, and also to give a little bit more flavor to this, if you look at this building, nice old building, so this building could have multiple functions. We can assign new functions to them. And this building could be in product. This could be an enterprise that produces the product. So this could be a church, a refuge, or indoor playground. Now, question is, how many affordances this building has? So basically, let's say we say there are 3 affordances or 3 functions: church, a refuge, and indoor playground. How it is possible? How easy we can turn them from one function to another function? It depends on the agility of the system. It depends how agile is this. How agile is the layout of the chairs and sittings and everything inside of this church? Is it rigid? If it is rigid, most likely if it is used as a church, that's the only use you can have of it. If you want to reuse it for different functions and purposes, then the agility comes to the play here. And the same would be for this square. So now we revisit that very first slide that we had at the very beginning, that an enterprise is basically a human cooperative, like companies, institutes, organization, and it could be also supply chains, like a chain of enterprises. Again, business is the functional perspective, the very same way that the function of that old building could be a church, could be a playground, could be. So business is basically a functional perspective on the enterprise, while organization is a construction perspective. If this one is subjective, this one is objective. At any given time, an enterprise has only one construction, It cannot be two different constructions. However, at any given time, the function, it differs depending on the intention of the subjects using it. So what should we remember from this part? So far, we talk about the function, well, construction, object, affordance, and subject. And we say that relationship of subject to the object basically defines what affordance is this object presenting. And we also say that function is synonym of the business of an enterprise. Construction is a synonym to the organization of an enterprise. So now we bring it back, we anchor it back into our discussion of enterprise. So an enterprise has an organization, which is the construction of the enterprise. It has a business, which is the function of the enterprise. And enterprise is a system, and we will talk about this also shortly. So the second theories that I would like also to share with you, we will summarize them. Please bear with me. We will summarize them towards the end. So psi theory or performing and social interaction, and my apologies, there are a couple of notes that I had on my slides, and at the last moment I did not remove them. So psi theory, let's see what is psi theory. Performance and social interaction, this is a theory about the, is basically operating principle of organization, and that is it. Subjects or human actors in organization, be it an insurance company, be it a hospital, be it an educational institution, subjects or human actors, they interact with each other by entering into and complying with commitments. And while they do this, they raise these commitments in coordination acts, such as making a request for a bouquet of flowers, asking for a pizza, asking for a new car, asking for a new product. So placing an order for a pizza, this is an example of coordination act that happens between human actor in a small enterprise called Pizzeria. Applying for a life insurance, that is also coordination acts between two actors that happen in an enterprise, let's say an insurance company, small or large. So these coordination acts, they basically all regard to a production acts. So when I am standing in front of Pizzeria and asking for pizza, I'm basically referring that at some point I will get the pizza and that will satisfy my needs. That will be a service used, like providing pizza, issuing a life insurance. So in essence, one could say that any business transaction, whether it is an insurance, whether it's in healthcare, whether it's a manufacturing business transaction, whether it's a constructing a new house or remodeling your kitchen. So any business transaction is a set of coordination acts and production act, or one single production act and a number of coordination acts. So I have a little bit schematic here or diagram here that make probably this discussion a little bit easier, that we have an actor on one side and we have an actor on another side, and that is a building block for any business transaction. The two actors, they engage in coordination, talking to each other. Hey, I need an insurance policy. I need a pizza. What type of pizza do you need? Well, I need a vegetarian pizza. What size do you need? That coordination or talking between the two actors in the role of initiator and the role of executor. So executor is the person who will fulfill the transaction. Executor is, initiator is who will basically use the service. All this happens because of one product fact that is represented in this diamond shape. And let's basically condense this into the following. So let's say this will be our initiator, a box, and this box representing executor. This small tiny diamond represents that this executor is, well, this actor is the executor of the transaction, And all these coordination acts, such as making requests, promise, statements, and acceptance, we represent as one desk, which is, and the product itself, that service that we want to get ownership of it, that is represented by this diamond. So basically, you could say that this is a single business transaction that is a building block for any organization or enterprise. So now let me switch a little bit towards organizational design. So we did talk a little bit theory. Now let's see how this theory can be further, how to say, applied in the organizational context. So before doing that, let me discuss a couple of things. That these coordination acts or these business transactions are carried obviously by people. And who are these people? Can anybody go to Pizzeria and bake pizza? Can anybody issue an insurance policy? Can anybody go stand and teach a course? Or can anybody be a physician? What is the role of organizational design? So I bring three notions from organizational design here: the notion of competence, authority, and the notion of responsibility. And let's have a look at all these three notions in three different examples. First of all, competence. If you are a Scrum Master, you have to be competent. If you are an Agile coach, you got to be competent. If you are a pizza baker, you got to be competent. So competence is basically is needed to perform production act. It's acquired through education and experience. Authority is to the, so authority means that you are assigned that role to do that. Like if I am an Agile coach in organization, I am assigned, I have the authority to do that. Responsibility means, so I'm feeling responsible to perform coordination acts. Coordination acts means that if I'm a coach, I'm coaching. If I'm a consultant, I'm doing my consulting job. If I'm a pizza baker, I do bake my pizza. There are three examples. For example, competence. Okay, this gentleman is a baker. Authority, he's baker in Pizzeria X. But if you go to Pizzeria Z or Y, he is not authorized to bake pizza. And his responsibility is that he is baking pizza. The same ways for different. So whether it's a material or non-material way. So now, now that we understand that people, they have competence, authority, responsibility, what are the ability of the people in enterprises? Because we want to see how we can make an enterprise agile, how we can profoundly understand an enterprise in order to make it agile. So there is a theory which calls alpha theory. Again, this is about the organizational essence, how we can get to the organizational essence. So there are three abilities that human they have in any enterprise. As a human being, we can basically create, let's call it performer ability. Performer ability is that we can perform original production act. For example, deciding to give somebody life insurance based on whatever quotes that we have. Deciding to, or baking a pizza, or producing a bouquet of flowers, or making a diagnosis to patients that is coming and visiting your office and you are a physician. These are your performer ability. Informer ability means that you can remember, you can recall, you can compute facts. For example, if somebody is asking me, what is the quarterly income that we have? So I have the ability to perform all the computation to get, the facts exist, the data exists, but all what I need is to do the informational side of it. And documental ability is that a human being in an enterprise can archive, can provide, can transform document or data, can store, retrieve, transmit, copy, and destroy data. So if you look here, This basically gives us a pyramid of abilities that we do in enterprises. Performa means that we can produce original production acts. Informa that we can produce informational production acts such as remembering, recalling, computing. Informa such as we can store, archive, provide, transform document, etc. So these are the three abilities. So I will, these three ability basically gives us that any enterprise could be also seen as three layers. The layer when people, they do business, like they issue insurance policies, they see patients and treat them. And then the informational layer means that we are using information, we are using information systems, we are using application. And obviously the data layer where we store data, we retrieve data, we manipulate data, we archive data. Now, these three ability roughly gives us two layers of the organization, the business side of the organization and the IT side of the organization. The IT side of the organization constantly produce solutions that they support the business side of the organization. So basically, you could say that each of this pyramid, the three layers, they are supporting the upper layer. So data layer is needed in order to support information layer. Informational layer is needed in order to support the business of the enterprise or business of the organization. So again, here, we could say that you have a business organization and then you have an IT organization. Why we need this distinction? We need distinction for many purposes. One of them is to understand that where is my business value streams? My business value streams really sits here at this layer. When we talk about digital transformation, what do we transform? Digital transformation means that all the works that are needed that a human actor in enterprise, they do it at this level of informational and documental, they can be basically digitized. They can be turned into automatic applications and IT applications. And now the question is, what is the relation of enterprise agility? Well, the relation is straightforward. The relation means that in order to achieve enterprise agility, first, your business and business people, their mindset, their thinking, their way of making decisions, behavior, culture, all this needs to be agile. Second to that, applications, systems, solutions that you are devising or developing, they should be done in an agile manner. And finally, there should be an alignment between all the strategic initiatives that are taking at this red or the business layer and implementation of these strategic decisions. So that all will give you enterprise agility. I will just make a few seconds pause in case if you have any question or you wanted some clarification, and then I will walk you through what is the role of system in enterprise agility, how we can use system thinking and transforming a traditional enterprise into an agile enterprise. Please feel free anytime that you have a question. I probably will, I'm not sure if I can see hands, if hands are up. Just open your mind and please chime in if comments or questions. So this is basically the closing part, that is system thinking. What is a system and whether we can benefit from system thinking for our enterprise agility. And then I will conclude this presentation with a nice example of organizational design and how that organization or that enterprise could be transformed into an agile enterprise. So let's do the following. So system, what is a system? There are, first of all, I must say there are many definitions of a system. So from Akoff to Deming to there are many system thinkers that they give the definition. Definitions that I adopted here is by Mario Bunge. And this definition is very simple, but very powerful. And this is applicable to the enterprise domain. So this definition says that something is a system if that thing has a composition, environment, structure, and production. And let me walk you through all of these four elements. So if we understand what is a system and what system definition is applicable to enterprise, then we can change that system, make that system nimble, make it flexible, and make it agile. So let's have a look at these four constituents of a system definition. So this is system. It has some production. That's the product. If it is a pizzeria, pizza is the product. If it is an insurance company, insurance policy. If it is a healthcare organization, treatment is a product of this. If it is a university, education is the product of it. So now something is system if it has a composition of elements, which are these tiny small boxes. It has a structure that is the lines that you see between these elements. It has an environment, that thick red lines that basically is the boundary or the defining the environment for this system. And it has a production. It has a product. You will not see a system that is doing nothing. If it is doing nothing, it's not a system. It is probably a set of elements. So now let's revisit our enterprise definition. What is an enterprise? An enterprise is, again, referred to any instance of human collaboration ranging from a family-owned pizzeria to a multinational corporation. That is an enterprise, to government agencies. An enterprise is a system whose elements are human actors. An enterprise belongs to the category of social systems. So systems could be biological, chemical, physical. The way these human actors are interacting in a series of authorities and responsibility, that interaction, that way of interaction gives a rise to the enterprise organization. People in a small medical practice, they interact one way that basically gives a rise to the organization of that clinic, and people in a post office, in a bank branch, etc. So now the statements that I make here is because of this importance of organization, business, and enterprise in that holistic understanding, because of that, expertise in organization design becomes part of any successful agile enterprise transformation. You can do agile enterprise transformation unless if you just bring a framework that replaces traditional way of developing an application, and you say that instead of the traditional, let's say use Scrum framework. That's not agile transformation in the enterprise. So agile enterprise transformation requires organizational design and changes in that design. For example, you could use any framework. My apologies. So my intention was that no framework will be mentioned in this presentation. So it doesn't, I do not basically, how to say, promote any of the framework. But it could be Scrum, it could be less, it could be that, it could be Spotify, it could be any framework. But to use that framework to transform your enterprise, you must possess organizational design understanding. And that's what I will do. Hopefully that the boring part of this session is over. I can imagine that nobody likes theory. Imagine abstract notions, definitions, all these concepts make you. Now, the interesting part of this session is that I will walk you through how an enterprise could be investigated and how an organization can be designed. So I will basically walk you through a brief example of organizational design. And I picked a small enterprise, and that enterprise is a great pizzeria. Let me see if I just to look at some faces. By just looking at faces, it gives me lots of inspiration. So, okay, Pizzeria, this is an enterprise, very simple enterprise. And the entire operation of this enterprise is basically described in one slide. And you could easily see the actor roles. There is a customer asking for pizzeria. There is somebody in the role of order completer who writes down the requirements for the pizza or the desires that the customer has, and also gives the total price or cost of the order. And there is a order baker who will basically bake the pizza. And if it is a delivery, then the delivery person or the order deliverer will deliver the pizza and the payment will be collected. So basically that's your enterprise. And if we understand this enterprise, we can claim that we can go and study or investigate any multinational corporation, because that's the approach that you will use regardless of the site. Obviously, bigger enterprises will take more time. So I studied this enterprise, and when I try to document it, because of engineering backgrounds that most likely many of us have, as I have engineering background, I thought that I can convert this description from this page, this text, I can convert it into a model. And this is my enterprise. Let's see, what do we see here? This gray lines that you see here is the boundary of the enterprise, this big rectangle. And this boundary is boundary of the pizzeria. There is one element or one actor in the environment which is called customer. And this customer is interacting with the enterprise, which is called pizzeria, through placing an order. And placing an order, there is a role inside the pizzeria who has a responsibility of completing the order by the customer. And that very same role is also responsible for requesting the baker in the kitchen to bake the pizza. And that very role is also authorized, I must say, to ask the delivery boy or girl to deliver the pizza. And that very person has the authority to request the customer to pay for the pizza. In case of delivery, he or she will delegate that authority to the delivery person to collect the money. So I will make a stop here to make sure that we understand this enterprise. And then I will interpret all the elements of this one by one and anchor it into system thinking. So I think that would be a beautiful exercise. But before doing that, I would like you to have a look at this. So this is a pizzeria. This is the boundary of the organization. This is the customer of the organization. This is how the customer interacts for the first time asking for pizza, placing order. In order for this order to be completed, this actor role is basically asking to bake the pizza. And when the pizza is baked, is asking for delivery if it was a delivery request. And if it was pick up, then the same role is asking the customer to pay for the service, for the product. I apologize. But if it is delivery, then he or she delegates his right or authority to the delivery person to collect the money. That's an enterprise. The only difference between this enterprise and Apple and Google and Boeing is that they will have more of these elements. But the approach will be the same. Let's further talk about this. The rest of this session is all about this one enterprise, and that's the Pizzeria enterprise. Let's have a look. You remember I started with system definition. I said there are many definitions, Acker, Deming, John Dietz, many. This is by Bunge, a philosopher, by the way. A philosopher gave in his book System Treatise this definition. So he says that something is a system if that something has a composition, a set of elements of some category. Let's find if we see composition. So composition here is this box, this box, this box. These are the composition of this system. Second one, it says it has an environment that has a set of elements of the same category. This is the environment, and this is an element of the same categories that we see here. By the same category, we mean that all of them are human actors, human beings. And then the third element of this definition is that it has a structure. Where do we get the structure? Structure is these bonds of relationship. For example, the order completer and the order baker, they have a bond of relationship through order baking, and the order completer has the authority to request, and the order baker has the responsibility to bake the pizza. So basically the structure is this link, this link, this link. So all these links that are between the actors, they basically are the structure of the system. If you make any changes in the structure, this will change the system, this will change the enterprise. Now, finally, we are talking about the production, and obviously that pizza that is delivered, that is the production of this enterprise. So on the left side, you see enterprise called Pizzeria, but you could also put the lenses of the system, and all what you see here is applicable to this enterprise. That is what we call system thinking, because you will see in all these frameworks, system thinking, but when it comes to what is exactly system thinking and how I can apply the system thinking to enterprise, that's the question, and that's what I wanted to basically discuss with you today. Okay, now we go back to three things. We had competence, authority, responsibility. So now we revisit them. We revisit them. Why we revisit them? Because I want to implement this design. That designs that you just see in the previous slide. This is a design of Pizzeria. I want to implement this. So I go back to competence, authority, and responsibility. Scrum Master is a competence, but being Scrum Master of a team is authority. And doing the Scrum Master job, that's responsibility. Let's look how we apply this to Pizzeria. So let's go to Pizzeria. You remember I used the name of the roles instead of, so now we have act roles, order completer, order baker, order deliverer. So what authority has this order completer? So now I say, hey, Mia, you are assigned to this role. That means that you have the authority of completing orders that we receive in this enterprise. Mia, you are empowered to make all decisions around the order completion. Order baker, him, Mayu, you are assigned to this role. You are empowered to make all decisions concerning pizza baking. Order deliverer, hey, Jose, you are assigned to this role. You are empowered to make any arrangements for timely delivery of orders. That's now any decisions that falls in this realm, we will not escalate it to higher level. That decision is done locally by these authorities that we just bestowed on them. Now, you may ask a question, can I assign this authority instead of Mia to Joseph, this presenter, speaker today, or to anyone else in this session? Then the question is, does Joseph have competence for this role? Does he knows menu, can modify pizzas, and do selections, use the computer for placing the order or managing the order? How about the order baker? Does he have the competence of operate the oven, a big variety of pizzas, and can read orders, etc.? So these are the authority, competence, responsibility, obviously. If you are authorized for this role, if you are competent, then responsibilities are described here, that you are responsible for all these acts. Hey, order baker, you are responsible for preparing pizza, topping, baking, keeping the area clean, etc. And the delivery gentleman, you have the authority to bring the pizza deliver the pizza, and whenever there is no pizza delivery, you help with the back store. And this is your authority. Now, next to all of this coming accountability. I will not talk much about the accountability, but accountability goes beyond the responsibility. So if responsibility is that, well, I did my job, so it didn't help the customer, I could care less, but look, by description, I did. Accountability is that you are responsible for any decisions that you make at the discretion of your range of authority and responsibility. So let's have a look here why this is important. Now what you see in this page, I basically took that design, organizational design, which I presented earlier. This is the organizational design we discussed. Now I'm implementing this organization. This is a specific implementation, a small pizza with Mia, Mario, and Jose. But this could be a huge, large pizzeria with hundreds of employees. I think it's a Ono Pizza in Chicago. Probably they have hundreds of people working in that place. Now, the question is, why it should matter for enterprise agility? First of all, in enterprise agility, you have to train competence-oriented training. That means that, hey, Mia, if you need a training, if you are not competent for this new type of pizza that we introduced, let me train you. Hey, Scrum Master, I am assigning this role to you. Are you competent or you need training? Product owner, product manager, architect of the company. Organizational design or redesign, that basically requires that you understand what is organization. You can document it, you can model it. You cannot transform an enterprise unless you understand the construction of it. Like similarly, if you ask a mechanic, well, not mechanic, let's say you ask me, Joseph, take this car and transform it into hybrid. Right now it is running on gas, and I want you to convert it into hybrid. And I immediately answer, I do not have the mechanic competence. You better ask a mechanic. I am a driver. If you want me, I can drive you in this car. I understand the function of this vehicle, but I cannot, and I don't have the competence of the construction. If you want me to transform it, then let me understand the construction first. That's what you need for the enterprise transformation. Finally, let's talk further about enterprise agility. Well, let me talk further what we can do with this model. So basically, at the later part of this session, and again, my apologies at the beginning was a boring, dry, abstract. Again, I said from the very beginning that this is a theory-driven approach. Now, this is our enterprise on the left side. Let's see what else I can get from it. What else I can get? First of all, I can derive my value stream from this. And this is my product value stream. Guess what? Do we have sales here? Sure, this is our sales. Do we have production? Sure, this is our production. Do we have delivery? Sure, we do have this delivery. Do we have payment? Of course, that's our payment. That's our value stream. So now, if I want to organize my pizzeria, again, this pizzeria is an example of any multinational corporation with 200, 300,000 of employees. Now, I derive my product value stream. Now, if I want to become a product organization, and I'm very happy that Jay is attending this session, he is very big in product-driven organization. If I want to transform my organization into product organization or enterprise, then that should be my organization. This should matter. So all my people, resources, systems, funding, investment is basically directed into this value stream. Of course, I have to say that there could be some internal processes. For example, internal processes could be like inventory management. Somebody is doing inventory management of ingredients and supplies and boxes and all the things. There could be also some training programs. Let's say this is a multi-hundred people organization and you constantly train them. There are many support functionality. But all that matters to this organization is this. If you remove this value stream from the organization, then anything else will immediately stop existence. Anything else will stop having any. Okay. So I was just looking at the chat room. Unfortunately, I have to say that I'm not looking at the chat room. So I assume that the questions are just between the participants or the comments. So now we go back to our alpha theory. That's the three ability of human being in organization. The three ability of human is it in this level, we know how to run the business. At this level, we know how to use information systems in order to do our job. At this level, we know how to store, retrieve, and manipulate data. Now, this layer stays pretty much stable over time, but this layer could change any day, any month. When you go to organization and they say that we have agile practice, they are talking about this part, that they are constantly developing new applications, new solutions, new features like, hey, can I place my order by cell phone? Oh, we don't have this feature. Let's develop that feature. Hey, can I pay Apple Pay? Oh, we don't have that feature. Let's develop that feature. Can I place order in advance for a party that is coming in 6 months? Oh, we don't have that calendar. Let's put that feature that somebody can click the calendar, etc. So that is what it is about. So let's put in pieces back together. Enterprise, organization, business. Okay. So enterprise in general term refers to any kind of collaborative activity by human beings. Every enterprise has two things. It has business, it has organization. Business is basically the function perspective of the enterprise, and organization is the construction perspective of the enterprise. When somebody says, I want enterprise agility, that means that you are basically introducing agility into the construction of this enterprise. And I go just back at 2 slides to see what we can do here. Let's say we have tens of people that they are authorized for this role. We have tens of people authorized for this role and tens of people authorized for this role. Now I have a need here, and we have excessive resources here. Can I move people from here to here? And if I can move them, if I can't, what hinders me? What are the impediments? If I remove those impediments, that I can easily move people around, that is agility. But if I have silos across these lines, that moving people, first of all, organizational is not easy. Second, the competencies, we did not cross-train them. We don't have competencies. And even if you have people sitting idle here, and you see here that overwhelmed by work, and you can't do anything about it, that is lack of agility at your organization. So obviously the theoretical foundations are coming from 3 different books. And so we are pretty much done. I know that there are 2 minutes. If I dare to use all the 60 minutes, we have 2 minutes left. And those 2 minutes, I will share with you just one single slide. And this slide is our approach towards agile enterprise transformations. That if you want to transform an enterprise, it takes many ways. If you remember from that very first slide, we had a target enterprise and multiple arrows. Those arrows basically representing these multiple ways. Way of thinking, way of working, way of learning, way of supporting, way of organizing, way of managing, way of leading. These ways must be mastered. not at once. This is iterative, ongoing process. Each of these ways are further described. So we are thinking Agile Manifesto, Agile Principles, all these theories, Tau theory, Alpha theory, Psi theory that I just discussed. Way of working, Scrum, SAFe, LESS, DOTS, Spotify, any of these frameworks. Implementation, change management. I think somebody in the chat room mentioned OCM. Where is my OCM? Here is your OCM. Way of managing, how you manage this change. How do you do organizational change management? How you handle communication, way of leading, leadership agility, vision and strategy formulation, execution alignment, coaching and training of the executives. But very importantly is this way of organizing. Guess what? Organizational design. I just walked you through organizational design using the Pizzeria case. System thinking. I just shared with you system thinking. Value stream. Organizing your resources, investment, funding around the value streams. That's what we did. What we did great job, or let's say not praise ourselves. We paid a lot of attention to this way of learning. Unless you understand what I am practicing and what principles I should follow and what is the current situation, into what situation or target organization, it will be very difficult. You know why people are changing resistance? Not because they resist to changes, because they resist not to changes, they resist to the uncertainties and the lack of knowledge. So this agile transformation happens iteration by iteration by iteration by iteration over many, many years. You can get every iteration, you go one slice of learning, managing, OCM, the next iteration, again, learning, managing, OCM, getting better, better, better. Eventually, expectation is that your enterprise will be totally transformed into what? Whatever target enterprise you define. You define if it is about engagement and happiness of employees, that should be if it is about the loyalty of the customer, but make sure that you have proper metrics here, that you measure your progress towards that organization. And with this, I am closing this session. References, I would be more than happy to share with you what books did I use in this presentation. And again, I also used some borrowed slides, and these slides came from a professor who taught me many, many, many years back. Thank you very much. I must say that this was not a typical meetup presentation, and thank you for your patience, because it's I know it was more academic, at least at the first part of it. But again, unless if we have the theoretical lenses and tools, you can do pragmatic work. Yes, organizational transformation is pragmatic work. Yes, you don't go to talk to executives about Tau theory, Alpha theory, Psi theory, of course. But you should know it inside. The same way that when I go to my physician office, the doctor doesn't talk about me about the anatomy, biology, and all things that he learned in college. But without that knowledge, it will be difficult for my physician to treat me, to help me. So that was my point in this session. So I assume that we will have some discussion, and some critiques are welcome. And if your time was wasted in any way, please speak up. And thank you very much. Yeah, please.
Yeah, we want to thank you, Joseph, for presenting for us. I think we got a lot of people got a lot out of it based on the traffic that we're seeing in the chat. So thank you very much. I'm also reminding everybody that next month is the open space. Bring your own bring a retro to share. So we're looking forward to seeing that next month. Thank you. Thank you for everybody for joining. Um,
And also, Paul, I wanted to say that the purpose of introducing this topic is that we would love, like we had a discussion with Jay and another colleague the other last week. We would like to make Indiana or a hub for something, a hub of expertise for something. Not that, okay, this is I presented about topics that there is no continuity to it. There is no like building how to say, group of thought leaders around that. So my sincere um, desire and hope is, and also colleagues that we discuss this, that we will make this area a hub of some expertise, whether it's enterprise agility, whether it's call it agile enterprise organization, that we have something to say to the rest of the nation and the rest of the country, and maybe some peculiar, very tiny topic. Jay, I would love to see your reaction.
Hey everyone, my name is Jervis. Jay is my nickname, Jervis Johnson. I know Joseph and many people on this call from CNO, and I love the people there. I love the company, but now I'm at Eli Lilly, helping them with their agile transformation. And like Joseph, I've done this now for I think 21 or 22 large companies in the world. Been doing this for over 40 years and almost 30 years in the agile space. I think what we're seeing now, to what Joseph has indicated, is agile transformation or enterprise agile organization is moving from the IT world. That's where it started. We all know that. And it's moving into the business, and now there's no business in IT anymore. It's one team and one organization to solve customer needs and the market space and so forth. And I think what Joseph put out here is, and what we're doing in several companies, where I was in Northern California, the typical companies there, and now Eli Lilly, as we're taking these ways of things here, these changes in the way we think and the way we're working, and we're going outside of the IT organization. We're going into the business, we're going into the labs, we're going into the research, we're going into the product domain, and it's all to create the digital transformation of digital enterprise to agile enterprise, all that cool stuff. You know, AI, machine learning, all that cool stuff is kind of coming together, if you will, and it's amazing. I mean, I've lived long enough to see this adventure and journey that we're going on, and I'm starting to see things coalesce. Management is changing, leadership theory is changes, how people interact and everything, which I think is helping this transformation or this change. So what Joseph was saying is that there's a lot of opportunity for us here in Indianapolis and in this area of the country to help lead this. And there's a lot of great companies here, a lot of wonderful things happening here, a lot of innovation, a lot of cool stuff. It's not just in Silicon Valley. And I think there's an opportunity for us to provide some of that leadership based on our experiences and learning, and it's always evolving, of course. I saw some texts in here, some comments in here, some from Ken Rowe, a few others here and stuff based on everybody's experience in life and their life experience. So, and I just moved here from San Francisco, and so I'm becoming a Hoosier, and it's cold. Holy mac, it's cold here, people. So I'm getting used to that. But I'm really enjoying myself. I went to 2 games already. I love the stadium here. I wish the Colts would have won the last 2 games, but next year. So I'm really enthused and excited about being part of the community here, and Joseph and others are excited as well that have been transplanted here. So hopefully we'll work together more, and some of you may be part of a team, if you will, to explore and exploit this. So a couple things we're working on, just to let you know. We're taking new adventures. I don't know how many of you know Dave Snowden and others. And we're kind of working with them to apply complexity science, working with others to apply chaos engineering to the agile transformation and agile enterprise as well. So there's some cool stuff happening there too. So I just wanted to introduce myself. Thank you, Joseph. That was great. And hopefully we'll continue our journey. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Jay. By the way, Jay and myself, we both are new. So I'm a bit older in terms of my tenure in Indiana than him. We moved in April last year, and Jay moved from San Francisco in June, I think, last year. So if you see some, so that's why we are hopeful that we become part of this community, and we will be feeling native to this great community. And I must say that not many meetups are so well organized. It's a great work, and I have to thank all the people, the founders, the people behind the scene, in front of the scene. And not many meetups are so well organized, from webpage to the speakers to the reminders and everything else.
Yeah, I would say the in-person ones a couple years ago are a lot more interactive when you're face to face with people. So hopefully when we can get back to that, we'll be able to meet you in person and have some more of those engaged discussions, and go to the bar afterwards like we used to. So
yeah, let's hope that this will happen sooner than later. So we will be very happy to host one or two sessions, so we will be very happy to also chime in to see what we can do for hosting this group. I fully agree.
Got you down for it now.
Okay, Megan.
Be
Yeah.
careful what you wish for.
Was it on record? Okay.
It is recording right now.
And I did ask
It
permission of
absolutely-
Lily, and Lily said we can do it too, but we'll have to figure out how to do it, because there's not a lot of security there.
Mhm.
And also, I think last week we discussed this with a couple of colleagues. It will be also good sometimes to have it in universities and campuses in different places, and move it from company to company, from campus to campus. It adds diversity. It also adds opportunity for networking and widening the base of this community.
Definitely. We've had a bunch of different locations. I actually work at IUPUI, so I am your university connection.
Okay.
Parking is always the issue, though. And welcome to the community. And you guys probably don't know this, but Jay, I have never heard you go by Jay before, but I sometimes have attended the Enterprise Agility group from San Francisco. So they have lots of great content too. So I'm excited to have both of you joining our community. I think that it's great to have experienced people, excited people in our community. And it will be even better when we go back into person.
Yes, and don't forget about typically we had food too. So
We do have food. We
Yep.
actually usually have pizza. So tonight I was really missing our pizza.
Well, that's the secret sauce we found out in Northern California, especially with millennials, is booze and food. They'll come.
We usually offer both.